Onegaishimasu. Curtis Sensei couldn't be here because of another commitment, so he asked me to teach today. He'll be back next week. Our key saying will be Shokushu number 17, Rei Sei Shin. We as human beings are given a mind that is directly connected to the universe. This is Rei Sei Shin. Water, when it settles, can clearly reflect the moon. When our mind becomes calm, Rei Sei Shin expresses itself clearly and unmistakably. Once this mind arises, in that moment, any selfish urges and desires disappear, and the universal mind of love and protection for all things shines forth. Let us polish our Rei Sei Shin. So nice to see you all. I hope everybody's doing very well. So many things going on. In the world. I thought I'd talk about one thing today. You see, a little over a year ago, one of my teachers, Clayton Naluai Sensei, passed away. And today is his birthday. He would be 85 today. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to share some of what Naluai Sensei taught me over the many years that I was with him. So I know a number of you have met him, and there's many people here who never did. He was from Hawaii, a teacher who started in the 1950s, in the late 50s, training under Toi Sensei. And he was also in the entertainment business, so he traveled a lot and would catch Toi Sensei in seminars on the mainland and in Hawaii when he was able to. He opened his own dojo in the 1970s, and that was the dojo that eventually I became head instructor of, Lokahi Dojo. And so he was a very interesting man and spoke in a very interesting way about Aikido. And from what I saw, it was a way that very much connected with people. So the first class I took with him, we were doing, of course we started with Ki class and then we did Aikido. And we were doing some Aikido art. It was probably the very first art we learned, Katate Kosadori Kokyunage. And he stopped everyone in the middle and brought someone up to demonstrate after already asking people to do the art. And he said, "You must love your partner." And of course, I had never heard anyone talk about Aikido in this way. I know there's the Shokushu, to love and protect all creation, Shokushu number 1. But other than that, I didn't hear a lot of talk about love when we were on the mat. And yet he talked about it all the time. And that's what I'd like to share with you. And his idea was very simple and straightforward. He would tell us, you are love. And of course, when someone looks you in the eyes and says that to you, it tends to strike you. Because maybe it's not something we hear. Maybe we don't hear it enough. And the idea, as I said, was simple. everything in the universe supports our presence here. It doesn't necessarily mean that it supports it in a way that we always want, but nevertheless, it supports our presence. The sun shines, the air, the earth, all are here. And if they weren't here, then perhaps we wouldn't be here. So in that sense, the universe is a loving universe. It is supporting, allowing this presence to be. And so that was kind of he didn't explain this. This was something that if you trained with him long enough, you would just come to understand. He would talk about the centrifugal force and gravity, and without that we wouldn't be here. And that was it. That's all he'd say. And yet you'd get the sense, oh, yes. So then he would also talk about everything that happens to us has its purpose, right? And so it can, if we are open to it, provide us with a lesson, a teaching. That idea that Curtis Sensei talks about often, about the teaching of the universe. The universe is always teaching us. The universe is the teacher, right? And Naluai Sensei talked about this in terms of tests. Of course, key tests are what Toi Sensei introduced to this practice. The key testing itself didn't exist in our practice before Toi Sensei integrated them into it. And so Naluai Sensei took that concept and said that everything that's going on, that challenges us, that gets a rise out of us, that creates tension in us, is a test. And that we must learn to accept and embrace these tests. And once we do that, we really begin to understand this idea that the universe is loving and that we are part of this love. And I know with everything that's happening around the world, in our lives, this can be very difficult to see. So this is where the practice comes in. This is where the sitting comes in. If we cannot notice these things, then we will continue this kind of cycle of thinking that things are against us, that the world is closing in on us. At those kind of times, we will continue to experience despair and fear. But when we see that there are opportunities around us, and these are opportunities for understanding, noticing, awareness, mindfulness. Right? When the water settles, the moon can reflect clearly. Thich Nhat Hanh said, when the storm is here, you see the trees, and the top of the tree goes like this. And that sometimes we are like the top of the tree, moving, shaken. He says to leave our head and go to the breathing. Focus on our breathing. Focus on our deep breathing in and out. And just by doing that, things may start to seem different. Naluai Sensei would call this, he would say the Hawaiians, they had a way of, their own way of expressing this. To get out of your head and go to your na'au. That's your abdomen, your lower abdomen. Go to your na'au. Go to where it's empty, not where it's busy. So, with that in mind, there's so much more to share, but I think I'll leave it at that, and we can practice going to this empty place for a little while this morning, this evening. We'll start with some key breathing. Okay. All right. So the 5 principles of key meditation that Curtis Sensei has been talking about, the Toi Sensei principles, a posture of holding, a posture of letting go, a posture of harmony, a posture in which we feel the creative power of the universe, a posture in which we feel the key movement of the universe. This is what Naluai Sensei was calling love. All of that. Right? Like just when we find ourselves slipping, losing that contact, that connection, we just go back. We just return. And that experience that maybe many of you just had through the sitting is what reminds us. It's a constant reminder. It's practice, of course, and it's a reminder. Then when we're out and about in our daily life and we have a test, as Sensei would call it, we have this reminder to return to that place that we're familiar with. All right, so I'd like to open it up for any comments or questions. Please feel free to comment on anything you like. Sitting practice, any of your tests that you're experiencing, anything you like.
Sensei, good morning.
Yes.
Good morning, everybody.
Oh, hello, Kayomi.
Thank you for this topic because I feel like I've been tested. Last week, I work at school, and one of the students kicked the ball very hard, and it hit my head from the back. So I already have a not very good neck. So it's, I think it's a disc slided. So I'm in a lot of pain. And yesterday I had to go to chiropractic doctor to kind of fix it. And I'm just thinking, how I know the life is process. When I'm sitting, I know the life is process. I feel like I'm always healing. I mean, physically too, always healing. It's a process, never ends. As soon as I feel like I'm healing from my back, and then this happened, again, I'm healing. It's a process. And I remember that if I don't, so that too I need to embrace. I remember Naluai Sensei always put the both hand as I hold it, and love it. Is this posture. I remember it. And I understand if I don't love this moment, means I'm missing life. But it's hard to love things like this. I don't know why, this happens. And how do I love even this? If you could help me, please.
Well, thank you. Thank you
And
for
you
that.
also said there's a reason for it. So I also was thinking, what's the meaning for this?
Yes,
Thank you.
he was fond of saying there are no accidents. Yes, so I'm sorry about the injury that you sustained. And yes, it seems like why did this have to happen, right? And of course, this is true for injury, illness, some kind of violence that we may experience in our lives, intrusion, all of these things. How can I embrace that? How can I welcome that? Right? I understand what you're saying. And I think it's important to, when the teacher says something and it seems so simple, and then when this happens, does not seem so simple. Or any of these other things, say an illness, a devastating illness. How can I embrace that? It's not about taking it as something that doesn't matter. But it is, I think that the idea of embracing and of loving is basically turning the perspective from seeing it as like, we can see these things as like a victim, or we can see them as an opportunity. Right? And again, this is not just easy for us. But Naluai Sensei did not want people to see themselves as victims. This is quite important to him. So regardless of the situation, we are in control of this perspective. We are in control of our attitude. Right? It may not always seem that way, but we are in control of, do we keep one point or not? In other words, control is maybe not the right word there, but it is our choice. That is our choice. Right? And so this is what he's talking about. Right? it's a lifelong process. You talked about healing. It seems like you're constantly healing. This process, if you have some emotional difficulty, especially as a young person, this also seems like a lifelong healing process, right? But this is a good thing that you can heal, that your body can take care of itself. Of course, we may have to see the doctor when it's like what happened to you. Your body is strong, and if your mind is strong, your body will be okay. And I think the other thing to realize here, and this is kind of part of the teaching, right? This greater sense of teaching. So some people experience many afflictions with their body throughout life. And we try to come up with reason. There's no reason. There's no explanation, right? People, maybe someone maybe even born with some kind of difficulty with their body. I think you know what I mean. And the opportunity here, when something, when we're training like this, is to realize that even this body is not, we identify with it, but this body is not me. Right? I am more than this body. Thich Nhat Hanh liked to, I've been talking about him from time to time recently because he also passed away. But he liked to say that a lot. I am more than this body. I am more than my emotion. I am more than my thought. And so this is what I can offer. That this is the opportunity for you, Kayomi, and anyone else that's going through something like that. If you see it in that way, if you see it as something that you can learn from, and that doesn't mean necessarily avoiding injury, finding a situation in life in which you will never experience injury. That's not what he was talking about test. It's about seeing this for what it is. I hope that helps. But yes, please, I hope you feel better as well.
Sensei, yeah. May I say, you taught me about changing perspectives, yeah. And I felt that my perspective changed. I realized that I was trying to control situations. I tried to control my pain and stuff like that. But I think you said I have a choice to. Still have a choice. I decided I choose to be as peaceful as possible while I'm going through this healing. And I instead of asking why this happened to me, it was it happened. So embracing means I choose, okay, this happened already, so be peaceful as much as I can. And I thank you very much, very helpful. Thank you, Sensei.
Thank you. I'll share one other thing before we close. So I think it was about this is a story I heard from Naluai Sensei's wife. She told me this. About 10 years ago, he had a surgery on his heart, open heart bypass, very, very serious surgery. And after the surgery, I guess when he woke up, the nurse was there, or the nurse came in. And he couldn't speak very well at that time because he had I believe he had a stroke not long before, which is why they actually did this. And they found other things that they needed to take care of. But so when he woke up and the nurse came in and she said, "Mr. Naluai, how do you feel?" And he said, "Blessed." So I will leave it at that. Thank you, everyone. I hope you all have a great rest of the weekend, a great week ahead, and we'll see you next week. Domo arigatou gozaimashita.